Goku stood at the top of Mount Paozu, early the next morning, staring into the mists. I killed Cell. Why is that bothering me? He was evil, absolutely irredeemable. He was designed to be the engine of our destruction. I shouldn't feel anything. It's not remorse, really, but I do feel a certain sadness. Hate him though I did, he was a great warrior. Can't help feeling I might not ever meet a challenge like that again in this life. It's more than that, though. He looked up and nodded, realizing. That's it. When I was a kid, I didn't have much self-control. Some of my opponents ended up dead. I didn't choose to kill them, there was always circumstances, like kicking General Tao's grenade back at him on instinct, or using up the last of my strength to finish King Piccolo, but even given that, I still killed some people. And yet, since I've grown up, I've never taken the life of an intelligent being. I even defended Vegeta and the Cell Juniors. But once more, I've had no choice but to act as God and choose who gets to live or die. I hope that never has to happen again. He took a deep breath, using a key-sharpened fingernail to open a small cut in his forearm, and letting the blood soak into his right wristband, the red stain covering the blue. He held up the bloody Saiyan tradition to the sky. Raditz, I'll never agree with your warrior's pride, but I do understand it. Have fun out there, bro. Launch was staring out into the ocean from the beaches surrounding Kame House when Break approached. Hey, you got a minute? This is where I was standing, Launch said quietly, fondly, and he appeared out of thin air. Right over there. We hadn't talked much before he left. We weren't sure about us. Left? For Namek? Break walked up to stand next to her mother. Yeah, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. I don't like sayings, but in those days apart, I knew. I think that was when he knew too. Hey, you're embarrassing me! Break laughed. You're my parents. Hearing this is kind of weird. I'm sorry. Launch turned, patting her daughter on the arm. Hey, I'm proud of you, kid. Your father is too. Break sighed. I know. I'm not sure if I earned it, though. What do you mean? After all I didn't beat Cell or the androids. It came down to Goku in the end, to be the strongest. I helped, but others still achieved so much more than I did. Abruptly, Launch punched Break across the face. The half-Saiyan didn't flinch, but noticed the fluidity of the motion. She's been practicing. Don't you talk like that! Lowering her fist, Launch leaned in closer. Now listen, none of this would be possible without you. You're the catalyst. You changed everything. We've got hope now, and a future thanks to you. And now you can go back and save your time too. Break shrugged. I guess so. You're right. Yeah, you're right. She searched for the words. I don't know. I guess I just imagined myself riding in from the future, the great hero coming to save the day at the last minute. Not to be a messenger and help out every now and then. I know what you mean. Launch stepped back and sat down on the sand, indicating the spot next to her, which Break sat in. The older woman continued, but don't try and be a hero. They always have so much pressure on them to make everything right. Gohan was the hero of your particular story, yes? Break shuddered, remembering. But don't be a hero? You're saying I shouldn't help people? By all means, Launch said. Be a good person. Be the best you can be, which, in my experience of you, is pretty damn good. Just don't let yourself become a symbol, or people will start asking the world of you. Silence fell for a while, Break finally speaking as dawn broke, sweeping away the mists. So, sorry if this is a difficult question. You're one person now. What's up with that? Launch lay back, half closing her eyes. Honestly, I'm not sure. My gut instinct, though, is that both sides of me were finally starting to meet in the middle. The good me was getting angry and determined, and the bad me was feeling compassion and regret. Was this how you were born, then? If the two halves are genetic, was the split activated by childhood trauma? Don't remember. Maybe it was. My early life's pretty vague. Our minds are pretty good at suppressing that kind of thing, you know? Maybe something did happen, and that's why one half of me was so bitter all the time. Maybe. Echoes of memories, shadow images played across her mind, but they were gone as soon as they appeared. Maybe we'll never know. Alright, fire it up! Bulma realized she was speaking to herself. Her second realization was that she'd been up all night working on the time machine. The third was that she'd already been sleep deprived for several days before that, working on the anti-cell device. Ah well, I'll sleep. That thing comes after now. Later. Right. Sleep later. She shook her head to clear her vision, focusing on the machine. This should be set to the right timeline, if I know my temporal probabilities, which is a field of science I invented yesterday, so I should. She powered up the machine, and the targeting mechanism located Brake's future timeline, a row of lights down the side of the control panel going green. Well, that works, at least. It had also been modified to carry several people, given the android's intention to accompany Brake. Now, let me just go find our time travelers and we'll be done with this whole thing. Purunga was growing irritated. It couldn't be done. This wish, it was impossible. Well, it seemed impossible. But the dragon wasn't entirely 100% sure, and it was physically incapable of refusing to grant a wish within its power, so it had to eliminate all doubt. There. Something sparked on the edge of its world-spanning consciousness. Its omniscient senses whirled, homing in on Earth, detecting some kind of link between this world and the world of the future, the one it had been asked to affect. Purunga worked quickly, seizing on the pathway and pouring its energy through. "Your wish has been granted," it grumbled. "Farewell, and do not try my patience in this manner again." The Namekian left to watch it glanced up in surprise, scrambling to its feet and running back to the village to inform the others. Bulma was on the verge of passing out, so completely missed the crackle of red sparks that ran up and down the time machine, as Purunga used it as a gateway for its power. Besides, Brake, 17, and 18 were just walking into the hangar at the time, and shortly took to inspecting the machine. "Hey, nice work," Brake said, tapping on the side with one finger. "Looks good as new." She turned to face the woman who, in the future, had practically been her mother. "Hey, I guess I won't be seeing you again. Not this version of you, anyway." "I know," Bulma sighed. "You sure you can't stay a week or two?" Brake shook her head. "Sorry, I'm afraid all I can think about is going home, finding out who survived, and finally fixing things there." "You said goodbye to everyone? Lunch?" "Yeah. You're all great people, you know? I'm glad to finally have met everyone you used to talk about. You're not so bad yourself. Look after yourself, alright? Thanks for everything." Brake nodded, started to speak, and found herself lost for words. She nodded, smiled, and climbed into the time machine. "And you too." Bulma turned to the androids. "Well, I guess I'm glad you came around in the end. I'm not going to become like the future version of me," 18 said firmly. "Well, I think you're crazy," 17 told her. "We don't know these people in the future or anything. But you're not going without me." "Hold on a second!" Everyone turned to see Krillin, slightly out of breath and wearing a backpack, standing in the doorway. "Let me come with you," he said. "Krillin?" Brake leaned out of the time machine. "Why do you want to... He glanced around, nervously. "I care about you guys. I want to help. Look, there isn't much for me here. I've never had that much of a full life. I mean, all my stuff fits in here." He held up his bag. "Hey now, that's a bit sudden." Bulma put her arm around him. "You've got friends, what are you talking about? Of course you have a good life. I've never known anybody to have more fun than you." She patted him on the back. "Maybe you're comparing yourself to Yamcha or someone. Don't. Just because he wakes up with a hangover on somebody else's couch every other morning doesn't mean he's doing better than you are. I know, but He looked torn. Bulma groaned inwardly. "I know what you're feeling," she whispered to him. "I know you care for 18 and you want to help her out. But those two really haven't had a life so far. There's nothing for them here, and they're doing something incredibly selfless by going. You'd just be making us all miss you. There's so many people here who couldn't bear to see you go. I guess so. He hung his head as the androids got into the time machine. Hey, I know it's hard, Bulma said. But they say, if you love something, let it go. A large crowd awaited them in Central City, and Goku and Gohan arrived with flair, pure white auras blazing around them as they landed in front of several important officials. The king makes his apologies. He's taken ill this morning. The Prime Minister informed them. Goku nodded. He'd met the king before, but couldn't really remember it very well, it having been a long time ago. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Dr. Briefs, as the world's leading scientist, his work unparalleled in practically every field, and the previously seen General Ripper. The crowd's reaction to the father and son duo was mixed, but mostly one of apprehension and anticipation. The Prime Minister shook Goku's hands awkwardly, and Dr. Briefs gave a half-hearted wave as he scribbled down an idea for perfecting the experimental flux capacitor he just had on a notepad, and the general saluted. Goku smiled and waved to the crowd. Hi! Gohan lurked behind him, remaining quiet. News helicopters swarmed around like angry insects. After a couple of minutes, the crowd was motioned to silence, microphones were brought forwards to all on the stage, and the conversation began. Thank you for responding to my invitation, the general began. Oh, sure, Goku replied. To be honest, I didn't even know it was a big secret. I mean, I've been able to do this stuff for years. I see. The Prime Minister, whose name tag read Eric's, said. He was a thin, smiling man with messy hair and round yellow sunglasses. So, by this stuff, you mean the superhuman abilities you used in the battle with Cell, among other times? Yeah, I guess so. Are they, though? Dr. Briefs cut in. Superhuman. If anybody can learn them, and I have it on good authority that they can, then is superhuman really accurate? Does that make being good at music or sport superhuman, then? I guess so. The Prime Minister replied with a nervous grin. But I hope you, know what I mean. If I may get back to the point. General Ripper turned to Goku. Sorry about that. Anyway, how exactly do your powers work? Where do they come from? Goku thought for a minute. Well, hey. Gohan spoke for the first time, still looking uncomfortable. While his father had remained in his ever-present orange gi, the 11-year-old boy had changed into more casual clothes, with a specially designed belt for hiding his tail. Dad, why don't I explain this? Not to put it too bluntly, but I've had, an education? Goku laughed. Yeah, go ahead, kid. Alright. Gohan frowned. It's like this. There's an energy, a force that flows throughout the entire universe. We call it ki, or sometimes just energy, or power. It's in every living being, which is how we sense people's locations, by feeling for their ki signature. And you can train to unleash your ki, and then channel it. He held out a hand, producing a small white energy ball. While we tend to focus on fighting, it's often just handy in life to be able to generate energy. For instance, having a larger ki makes you stronger, faster, and tougher, or as we put it generally, more powerful. Plus, you can learn useful techniques, like flight. Extinguishing the energy ball, he hovered a couple feet above the ground, cameras tracking his movement and broadcasting to the world. You see? It's actually not that hard once you get used to it. He settled to the ground. Honestly, it wasn't some big secret that all this was possible. People like the turtle and crane hermits have been teaching ki use for hundreds of years. I see. Ripper frowned. And at a certain level of power, a ki-trained fighter is above the level of conventional weaponry? Guns? Tanks? Sir. Gohan looked him straight in the eye. With all due respect, your entire army could attack me and I'd be capable of disarming them all before a single shot was fired. However, not wishing to boast, I count myself as exceptional, and perhaps most children would not be able to overcome them quite so easily, no matter how much training they had. He smiled a little. It'd take them a couple of minutes, at least. And Ripper scratched his head. What if the army deployed nuclear weapons, just to extend that hypothetical scenario? Not that we would, naturally. Then, hypothetically, it would depend. Gohan shrugged. King Piccolo had about the equivalent power of a nuclear bomb, I suppose. But we're way past his level at this point. Right now, I'd be fully capable of destroying a planet. You could destroy Earth? Ripper gulped. You don't feel safe with us here? Goku asked. Listen, you're a trained soldier with years of experience. You're probably capable of killing most men fairly easily. I don't think that should be a reason for your friends and family to fear walking into a room with you, do you? Don't worry, you've got nothing to fear from us. All we've done is protect this planet. Hey, alright. The Prime Minister began to pace back and forth. Nobody's afraid of you. The General's just jumpy. It's his job. But you have the intention of making this power available to everyone? Anyone who wants it, Goku shrugged. I mean, not everybody has to be a fighter, but sure. So, who will spread this knowledge? Does Master Roshi still teach? Surely he can't deal with thousands of new students. You know, that's a good point. There aren't enough teachers, and I can't see myself spending every waking minute just teaching all this. Gohan grinned. Got it. What? I know what we'll do. He stepped forwards. You always wanted me to develop my power, right? And Mom always said I should study more. Well, how about this? I'll write a book. Everything about Ki, how to train it, all about what we do. I'll even include explanations for our battles with Cell and so on. How's that sound? Hey, now that's a good idea. Goku grinned. Then people can just get one and not have to run to one of the only few teachers. Yeah, that sounds great. Alright. Gohan turned to the cameras. It might take a couple of years, so sorry about that. But I want to make sure it's done well. Alright then. The Prime Minister said, feeling that events had left his control. I guess we'll have all the answers we need soon, people. He tried to speak towards the cameras, but they were focused on Gohan. Hold it right there! Goku turned around, seeing a familiar figure, and groaned. Oh, not again. No more of your tricks! Hercule yelled, somersaulting off the top of his car and landing in front of Goku, one finger extended in a challenge. I, the martial arts champion of the world, and the man who defeated Cell, challenge you! Do you think you got what it takes to face the champ? Goku sighed. You've got to be kidding me. Vegeta fell back from another blow to the head. He'd had his second wind, and more, but it wasn't any good. His opponent was like a wall he just couldn't climb over no matter how hard he tried. Why? Why is this happening? I'm the universe's greatest warrior, am I not? I have risen to the top, thrown off Frieza's oppression, surpassed all my limits. Is it not my right to be victorious? Is it not my right to live, to claim revenge on the renegades on Earth? I am an elite of the highest caliber, and this low-life scum is picking me apart. This cannot. I will not! Another punch sent him tumbling away, rolling over and over on the broken ground, and staring into the dirt, watching his lifeblood seeping into the uncaring earth, hearing his executioner's heavy, approaching tread. A dawning realization hit him. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. He was the prince of all Saiyans, the greatest of his kind, a pure-blooded warrior, and what's more, a Super Saiyan. So, what did it matter when some pirate from who knows where could just come along and beat him into the ground? What was the point? Suddenly all his boasts, his pride at being from such a privileged warrior breed seemed empty. I am the prince of all Saiyans! I am death! The words rang hollow in his mind. What did it mean anyway? His royal blood? It meant that his ancestors had been great warriors. It said nothing of him. All that mattered, all that ever mattered in this life, was strength. The ability to back up your claims, to stand on your own 2 feet, and defeat your enemies. If you were beaten, if you were weak, it didn't matter who you were. This battle was a testament to that. His pride, his standing hadn't saved him. He had always thought that it was his birthright to be the greatest. How blind. Kakarot had surpassed him with apparent ease. Raditz had beaten him to becoming the Super Saiyan. And now this nobody, this scum, was about to kill him. He shoved himself off the ground, vision blurring as he faced Bojack. How could I have spent my whole life spouting that garbage about being born superior?
That's been proven wrong more than enough. All that matters, the only thing that matters is the here and now. And I will win this battle. And I will kill those traitors on Earth. You, he hissed.
Bojack grinned. More of the same, no doubt. Prince this, saying that.
Get out of my way. It's the only thing that matters. I have to be stronger than him. I have to get past him.
Bojack chuckled. Get out of your way. I thought you wanted to fight me. Vegeta fell forwards, stopping just in front of Bojack. He gasped, catching himself, trembling as he raised his guard.
No, I won't lose here. I can't die here. I said, get out of my way!
Okay, that's that. Also, I will do the Dead Zone special pretty soon, but don't expect a full chapter. It's pretty short. Anyways, that's it for Chapter 39, Status Quo. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's glad to be back from my 2-week break. We're going to get started with Chapter 40 in just a few seconds. Stay tuned. Because I've been having computer troubles, this is going to be kind of a short chapter. So treat this in Chapter 41 as a sort of extended 2-part chapter. Sort of. Thing. And for the same reason, Chapter 2 of Best Served Cold will take a while. Also, some people have been telling me that Canon Super Saiyan Gohan was stronger than Goku at the Cell games. Yeah, my bad. Okay, so just take that number I gave for Breakthrough the Limit Gohan then. Not that it matters too much. I'm not going to venture any guesses at actual power levels or anything. And any important information you can probably pick up from the story itself. Oh, one more thing. The thing in this chapter about Hercule's name was actually something Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, said in an interview, so I didn't just randomly come up with it. Actually, make that 2 more things. I really don't like the way the site makes my double dashes single dashes, so sorry if that's a little annoying. But my computer kept deleting files, so I started just writing Breakthrough the Limit directly onto the site. The media had been frantic the last few weeks, and today was no exception. A special arena had been set up at extremely short notice using Hercule's considerable funds. A giant ring made of dozens of perfectly cut stone tablets, topped off with 4 huge spikes of the same gray rock, one at each corner of the ring. A feat of high-speed, large-scale engineering made possible by a combination of near-limitless cash and cutting-edge Capsule Corp technology. News crews swarmed around the site like angry insects, cameras whirring and flashing, microphones waving frantically as they chased down even the most minor functionary who showed themselves outside. The 2 fighters, or possibly 1 fighter and 1 man with a mustache, Goku and Hercule, were safely hidden from media attention and tents on opposite sides of the ring. Goku sat in his tent, talking with Chi-Chi and Gohan. "I don't like this whole setup," Chi-Chi muttered. "Oh, don't worry about it." Goku gave his usual carefree smile. "You just need a little proof, that's all." "Well, you just wiped the smirk off that big jerk's face, alright?" she asked. Her husband laughed. "Hey, that's not so hard. You could beat him yourself, you know. The fight, if you can even call it that, isn't what's important. What's important is that people see the fight." "Yeah, that's about it." Gohan stood up. "I'm going for a walk. I need some fresh air." "You sure?" Chi-Chi asked. "All those annoying journalists are out there." Gohan shrugged. "Don't worry, I can outrun them in my sleep." As he left, Goku and Chi-Chi heard gunshots from outside. They looked up, curious, as Eric's, the Prime Minister they met earlier, rolled into the tent, breathing heavily and holstering a smoking revolver. "Oh, hey there," he said with a friendly wave. "Just had to fire a few warning shots. I got swarmed by reporters." "Right," Goku nodded. An awkward silence followed, and as he mentally floundered, Chi-Chi tried to make conversation. "So, Mr. Eric's, what do you predict? Who do you think will win?" Eric's grinned. "Oh, come on, don't treat me like an idiot. We both know Hercule doesn't stand a chance. I mean, he's a skilled wrestler, but it's still like Bruce Lee trying to take on Superman." Goku blinked. "Sorry, I don't know who that is. That super guy sounds tough. Bet I could take him, though." Eric scratched his head. "Wow, you must have been one sheltered kid, huh?" You have no idea, Chi-Chi agreed. Gohan idly whistled to himself as he zipped along at speeds faster than the reporters could follow, eventually finding a spot up on top of a hill, within view of the ring, but far enough away that no news crews would spot him. However, as he sat down on the other side of the hill, he realized with the start that someone else had beaten them there, probably with the same intention. He must not have been paying attention as he hadn't noticed their key signature. Hi. The girl looked up. She was about his age, with shoulder-length black hair and pigtails and large, staring blue eyes. She wore a long white shirt that came down to her knees, contrasting sharply with the black of her pants and fingerless gloves. Seeing this neat, almost uniform-like appearance, Gohan suddenly felt uncomfortable with his scruffy, asymmetrical hair and loose orange gi. Hi, she said. You're his kid, aren't you? The guy my dad's going to fight. Your dad? Hercule Satan's your father? Gohan asked, surprised. Yeah, my name's Videl, she said. Okay, I'm Gohan, I know. She looked up into the cloudless midday sky. You were on TV. I have a good memory for names. After a brief pause, she added, my dad's going to win, you know. Gohan chuckled. Sorry, but he isn't. Almost everybody I know could wipe the floor with 100 of him. No offense. He just hasn't had the chance to learn the proper... She frowned. Say what you like. My dad's the strongest person in the world. He can punch through solid rock. Wordlessly, Gohan picked up a rock lying on the ground next to him and gently crushed it between two fingers. There you go again. I bet you picked a cracked rock just to trick me, she said firmly. Gohan shook his head, resisting the urge to repeat the process with a boulder or a mountain. You'll see. They sat on in silence. Hey, Videl eventually said, you want to know something? Gohan looked up from his internal musings. Huh? What? She leaned in close and whispered, my dad's name isn't really Hercule. That's just a stage name. She smiled. He's actually called Mark. She leaned back as Gohan giggled, for once acting like the child he was. Mark? Really? Gohan grinned. I guess that is a bit less impressive than Hercule. Raditz and King Kai appeared in the main portion of the afterlife without ceremony. King Kai had provided the location, and Raditz had used instant transmission to speed up the transport process. He tapped the halo above his head with a small measure of disbelief, remembering the fateful judgment which had allowed him to keep his body at all and progress here. An indefinite period of time after Raditz was killed by Cell, undefinable due to the slowed down way time passes in King Yema's room of judgment, a necessary feature to allow him to judge all the souls of the dead within a short time of their demise. Raditz stood in a large, wood-paneled room, first taking in the circumstances of his death, then his location. Several ogres in business suits were positioned around the room, and at a gigantic desk, also wood. Mahogany, perhaps. And in front of him sat a huge specimen, red-skinned with a bushy, angry-looking beard which juxtaposed the friendly expression on his face. Ah, here we are, he said, shuffling some papers. Greetings. He eyed a sheet of paper. Raditz, Saiyan, North Galaxy, died defending his brother. Ah, yes, I remember you. I am King Yema, Judge of the Afterlife. He leaned forwards, steepling his fingers in front of him. Now, we've given you your body on a temporary basis for this judgment, but please don't try anything unruly, as we can just as easily take it away. Usually we just judge the incorporeal soul, but I wanted you with full awareness and mental capacity. Why? Raditz asked, still looking around. I honestly don't know what I expected from the afterlife, but it sure wasn't this. Well, you see, I'm not entirely sure what to do with you. I wanted to hear what you have to say for myself. The deceased Saiyan paused. This is my final judgment? You're going to decide what happens to me in the afterlife. For eternity. His voice cracked as he added, quietly, something he'd have never admitted under normal circumstances. I'm afraid. And well, you should be, King Yema replied, pushing his glasses up to the bridge of his nose as he peered at Raditz. I'm sure I don't need to tell you there's a lot going against you. However, the latter years of your life were spent engaged in somewhat nobler pursuits than the first. So you're not damned for certain. Go ahead. Make your case. He didn't know where to begin. So he just talked. Anything that came to mind. I don't want to go to hell. Or whatever you call it. I won't lie. I desperately want to go to that other place. But I'm not sure if I can plead with you. If I can argue that I should be allowed. I don't know if I deserve that. I've only just got over this in life. Justifying myself. Everyone around me was always telling me it was fine. That I'd changed. Does that matter? How do you judge these things? He choked. How many people have I killed? Innocents. He looked up at King Yema. It's not a rhetorical question. You should know this kind of thing. How many? King Yema shook his head. I don't think you want to know, but it is a very large number. I'd say millions, but that'd be a few orders of magnitude off. Cleansing a planet is a lot of lives, you know. Yeah, I know. He sighed. I guess I've done good things since then. I saved people, helped those weaker than me. But only a couple of planets. What I've given the universe is nothing compared to what I've taken away. And even so, does it bring back anybody I've killed? They're still dead because of me! He realized he was shouting and tried to calm down. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I don't know. I don't know what you should do with me either. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. He put his head in his hands. I wish none of it had happened. Maybe everybody'd be better off if I hadn't been born in the first place. I don't know what I can say. I'm so sorry. He trailed off. And genuine remorse, check. Yema started ticking boxes. Acknowledgement of deeds, both good and evil, check. Raditz looked up, astonished, as Yema continued. Desire to continue to do good, that's a big one, check. And I should also add, complete inability to see the bigger picture. The minor god smiled. Think about this. Who, despite all odds, was the prophecy-fulfilling Super Saiyan who brought about the end of 2/3 of the galaxy's oppressors in a single day? What? And who was sent to Earth to find his long-lost little brother, bringing its warriors into contact with the wider galaxy and causing the fall of the entire Frost Demon dynasty, thus preventing countless future centuries of bloody repression and genocide, which would have far outweighed any crimes that this man himself might have committed in his earlier years. A galaxy, I might add, which did not in fact collapse into anarchy, and is now incapable, and what's more just, hands a woman or something, I can't remember, and her robot lieutenant, and is now enjoying peace and freedom for the first time in hundreds of years. And finally, who saved said younger brother from death at the hands of Dr. Zero's creations not once, but twice? The second time giving his own life in the attempt, allowing the defeat of the monster Cell, who, if victorious on Earth, would have gone on to wreak havoc on the entire universe, as a far more terrible threat than Frieza's kind ever was. Raditz gaped. I did do all that, didn't I? Indeed. It seems, in fact, that whatever your society drove you to do at first, in your heart you find it almost impossible not to do good deeds when given the opportunity. And now, he stamped a red seal of approval on Raditz's file. I'm giving you that opportunity. Raditz smiled awkwardly, forcing himself to hold back tears. He could scarcely believe the implications of this. Thank you, sir. Yes, you're very grateful, I know. So is everybody who's allowed to enter the happier part of the afterlife. And as a reward for the manner of your death, you'll be allowed to keep your body, in order to continue your fighting career here in Otherworld. Now go, and don't use up any more of my time. I've got 7 million souls to process in the next 3 living world seconds. Goodbye. The long-haired fighter nodded. He'd been lucky. With the judgment harsher, He didn't want to think about it. So, he said, the Judge God said I can continue fighting, or something like that? King Kai nodded.
As with all great champions and heroes, you've been allowed to keep your mortal form for that reason. They've had millennia to train. You'll find plenty of warriors here who will make even you look like nothing.
Raditz grinned, striding through the tall grass towards the distant group of figures. Not for long. So, will there be an Otherworld tournament arc? We'll see. Will Pikkon exist? Minor spoiler, yes. Will he have a power level that makes sense rather than leading to madness like weighted Pikkon Super Saiyan Goku Cell weighted Pikkon? Also yes. Thank you for tuning in to Chapter 40. I think we've got enough time. We'll do one more chapter. Chapter 41. See you in a bit. Bulma, of course, didn't know. Nobody knew. Not even Purunga knew. This had been an entirely new and untested use of its powers. But Bulma had been standing rather close when the dragon had been using its magical powers across time, and there had been some leakage. Excess radiation, a scientist might call it. A mere flash. A single event. A black, twisted day in their future. So meaningful and terrible it was etched into the time stream itself. The day the entire universe cried out in pain. So strong that even the brief, limited exposure to raw temporal energy she had experienced had burned it into her subconscious. Bulma first got a hint that something was amiss when she woke up the next morning, having finally gotten some sleep. She felt strange. Still tired, as if she'd barely rested at all. She looked down. There was a pen in her left hand. Scrawled on her right palm was a number 7. Then again, further up her arm. One more on her shoulder. She tilted her mirror towards her. 3 more inky 7s dotted her face. Worried, she let the pen drop, jumping out of bed and flicking on the lights. Empty, dry pens littered the floor. The walls and ceiling were covered in 7s. What the hell? She breathed. Vegeta stood over the green, bloodied corpse, slowly crushing Bojack's ribs with his foot for good measure. I suppose I should thank whichever of the Earth maggots achieved this power before me, he thought to himself as he vaporized the body with a wave of his hand. Bright blue electric sparks crackled through his aura. Just knowing it existed made it far easier to attain. Perhaps easy is the wrong word. It wasn't easy. Realizing the foundations I built my world upon were meaningless. It doesn't matter now. He put it out of his mind, trying not to acknowledge the pain he'd felt, inside and out. I'm sure Kakarot or Raditz or whoever has got a head start. I'll have to train and master this new level. Then I'll return, and once the traitors are dealt with, I shall realize my true destiny. I'll carve out a new Saiyan empire by my own strength. I won't ever have to rely on anyone again. Powering down, he flew over to his pod, ignoring the empty ones previously used by his squad. He climbed inside, tapping in the coordinates of a nearby trade planet. No use destroying this world. I'll leave it like this. Let them find it, and wonder. Alternate timeline, 17 years in the future. Brake stepped out of the time machine, taking a deep breath and tasting ash and dust on the wind. Even the air is sick here. 17 and 18 followed, looking around at the devastated landscape. Crumbled remnants of burnt-out buildings lay all around. No greenery was available. The occasional skeleton or scavenging animal dotted the area. This is the place I left, Brake thought. But where are Gohan, Bulma, and the other androids? I guess they must have moved on. I had to return a day later to avoid temporal interference, which would create another timeline. Can't see any fresh bodies, at least, so that's promising. This is wrong, 18 whispered, shaking her head. How could we have done this? Is the whole world like this? 17 asked, only slightly more detached. Brake nodded. Pretty much. Her head whipped around, and her eyes narrowed. A group of human key signatures was starting to vanish, one by one. Stay here. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Gohan winced as his improvised bandage rubbed on his raw wound. His shoulder was a bleeding stump, his severed left arm abandoned several miles back. In the distraction caused by Trunks' self-destruction, he'd managed to escape death. But 18 had been holding him by the arm, and he literally had to tear himself free. Since then, he'd been wandering, trying to find some sign of them. He knew it was stupid. He should return to their shelter, not go looking for another fight he couldn't win. But he couldn't let it go. The battle wasn't over. He'd almost certainly die when the time came. But so be it. He'd failed the task he'd been appointed so many years ago. Launch's final words to him rang accusingly in his mind. Our children, Gohan! They're the only hope for the future! Take care of them. Here they come! Gohan! Go now! His face hardened at the memory, and he trudged on towards the disappearing human energies. He crested the hill, and a frightened woman ran past him, shrieking. Android 17 stalked after her, firing a large caliber pistol at his fleeing victim. Gohan caught the bullet in mid-flight, popping it in his mouth and grinding it to dust between his teeth. He nodded towards the gun. A grown man like you, still playing with toys. It's disgraceful. 17 smiled.
Oh, look who it is. You know, I'm actually glad you survived losing your arm, so you can see.
He turned so that the light from a burning ruin illuminated him from behind, revealing his own damaged arm. The human exterior skin and clothing completely melted off to reveal a metallic skeleton beneath. The cyborg flexed his visibly robot hand, scowling. That brat did this to me! Look at it. Now that is disgraceful. Leave these people alone, 17! Gohan growled, turning Super Saiyan. Your fight is with me now. 17 shrugged.
I was just having a bit of fun, but have it your way. I won't hurt them. My sister, on the other hand...
There was a flicker of high-speed motion, and 18 appeared in midair, grabbing the escaping woman and preparing to snap her neck. Gohan grimaced. You're so fast!
Go ahead and take Gohan out, 17.
The second android said, grinning fairly.
I've already taken my pound of flesh from him. How generous of you.
17 raised an arm, a bright yellow ball of energy forming easily, drawing on his infinite energy reactor.
Now, Gohan, are you going to try and actually fight in your condition? Or can we make this easier for all of us, and you just let me end it? Or I guess you could make a futile attempt to save that poor innocent my sister's got a hold of, but you'd leave yourself quite open to attack.
Gohan trembled. Damn! This would be so much simpler if it was just me and them. I'd just go out fighting. Can I save this person and hold the androids off long enough for them to escape? If I'm resigned to not being able to save them, can I bring myself to let them die to give me an advantage? How did my father do this kind of thing all his life and come out smiling?
Time's running out, my friend, 17 said in a mock parental tone. Now you haven't made a decision, so I'll make one for you. It's been fun, but this is the end.
There was an almighty crack, and 17 folded up, wheezing quietly and dropping to the ground. In that instant, his energy ball had been deflected harmlessly into an empty office block, and the woman 18 had been about to kill had vanished, finding herself placed safely out of harm's way, a mile away. What the hell? 18 asked, glancing left and right.
Hi there, said a voice.
18 gasped, jumping away and raising her guard to see Break, in a fresh suit of a replicated Saiyan-style armor, golden hair blowing softly in the wind, completely calm. Miss me? Break! Gohan shouted, overjoyed. You're back! Well, he said grimly, not noticing that she was concealing her power. I suppose that we can at least die together. Break shook her head. No one's dying today. Her eyes narrowed. Except these two. What are you talking about? Even with all of us at our best, we never— Yeah! Break yelled as she powered up to her maximum Super Saiyan strength. There was a level beyond that she and Broly had used, but that wasn't necessary. The androids weren't worth bothering with it. Gohan and the androids took a step back, the information Gohan's ki sense gave him filling him with awe. Is that really you? She looks older, he realized. Tougher even. Break turned her attention to the androids. Of course I'd find you trying to murder someone. Someone who hasn't done anything to you! She snarled, barely able to contain her anger. Not only her. One of the only still living friends I have! I've seen what the world could have been like without you. How far you've dragged us all into the dirt. Maybe a true hero would find it in their heart to try and forgive you. But you too. You made me what I am. And I'm no hero. The air crackled with the heat of her power as she fumed, the rocks at her feet buckling and melting under the immense pressure. Goku has Cell something. How many more? Well, I know the answer to that now. Not one more, you animals! What? 18 was cut off as a fist, hard and unyielding, smashed into her face, driving her back. She stumbled, clutching her broken nose, screeching in pain. Ah! Bitch! Ah! Without responding, Break thrust her hand into the android's midsection, reaching inside, feeling for some mechanical part that seemed large and important, and ripping it out, leaving a gaping, sparking hole in 18's stomach. She fell, lying still, eyes going blank, mouth twitching slightly. As she died, a sudden change of expression swept over her face. An immense sadness seemed to come over her, perhaps even regret. But Break wasn't focused on her. Tossing the piece of 18 away, she turned to 17. This can't be happening, he stuttered. There's no way! You killed her! You just stabbed right through her! In an instant, Break stood in front of him, smiling coldly as she began to speak in sugar-sweet, mocking tones.
Oh, that's funny. Is that what I did? That's real funny.
She grabbed 17 by the shoulders, pressing down with impossibly strong fingers and digging great rents into his skin, making him cry out in pain.
Stabbed right through her, you say? You know, that sounds kind of familiar.
Do you? She hissed, almost spitting in his face. By any chance, remember someone called Trunks? Without another word, she sent a gigantic wave of ki out through her hands, shattering 17's body like glass. Broken pieces of metal and flesh rained down in front of her as she powered down. Gohan, also having reverted to his normal state, staggered over to her. Break! You're incredible! How did you get so powerful? And you were in control, too. She grinned. I'll tell you the whole story later, okay? You just see if you can get a real doctor for that wound, and then we'll go tell Bulma what's happened. What's important now is that it's over. She smiled to herself, realizing the truth of the words as she said them. It's finally over. They're gone. We're free now. I'll join you soon. Soon? He asked. Where are you going? Break sighed. Oh, this is going to be awkward. There's a couple of people I'd like you to meet. Main timeline. Present day. Otherworld. Raditz dusted off his hands, frowning at his downed opponent, a large, toga-wearing fighter with a floppy blonde mane of hair named Olibu. Honestly, I've only been here for 10 minutes, and already I have to prove I'm not just idly boasting about my power. Well, Olibu said as Raditz helped him up, when one claims to be many times stronger than Frieza, Tyrant of the North Galaxy, it's not always easy to believe that, especially since you haven't had thousands of years of training like we have. Good point, Raditz replied eagerly. I've got the whole of infinity to train. There's no limit to the power I can achieve. I wouldn't bet on it. Everyone meets their limits eventually. Believe what you want. I'm a Saiyan. We're all about getting stronger. They both looked around as a tall figure landed on the heavenly world, approaching the training grounds. The stranger had green skin and no visible nose, and wore white and blue robes, topped off by a turban. Who's that? Asked Raditz. He managed to avoid commenting on the stranger's halo, having finally gotten used to the fact that everyone but the Kais, there were indeed multiple Kais, another new discovery, though he had yet to meet any other than their own familiar, King Kai, had them here. That's Pycon, Olibu replied. He's the strongest of us all, easily. He read the expression on Raditz's face. But don't even think about it. He's way above even your level, my friend. He's just returning from a special mission from the Kais. Frieza and his family were stirring up trouble in Hell. Not Cell? Raditz asked. I know he hasn't been here for long, but it sounds like just the kind of trouble he'd love to get in on. No. The Heavenly Warrior's expression darkened. King Yemma was afraid of just such an occurrence, and there's nobody in Otherworld who can match Cell, so a special prison was constructed for him in the depths of Hell. The only two people on his level are still living. Goku and Gohan. Right.
Raditz weighed this up in his mind, but it didn't add up. Why not just take away Cell's body? And Frieza and the rest of them, for that matter. It's not that simple, or so I'm told, Olibu explained. You see, King Yima doesn't quite have the power he likes to advertise. He can separate a person's soul from their otherworld body, but if the person is an exceptional hero or villain, if they rise above the masses through force of character, their soul and body gravitate together. And that's the reason for the whole system. I don't understand. It's like this. What you might know as heaven is where most people go. Their souls drift away from their bodies, and they lose some of themselves when they die. But as generally decent people on the whole, and as long as any crimes they committed were justified or minor enough to be excusable, they're allowed a pleasant afterlife. The despicable wretches who commit mindless acts of evil and are not strong of mind enough to retain their bodies are fed into a negative energy machine where their essence coalesces into a useful fuel source. For instance, it is this constant stream of energy that fuels Cell's prison. He paused, making sure he had everything the right way around. The strong of will. It is impossible to keep from their bodies forever. The evil ones are cast down into hell, and the great and good are allowed to ascend here, the world above even the heavens. I like to call it the true heaven. Raditz tried to take this all in, but he was sure he'd forget most of it soon. Alright then. Well, that's nice. I'm gonna go take a look at this Pycon guy. Do you think he took down Frieza's family easy? Olibu nodded. I'm sure that it barely deserved to be called a battle. Excellent! Raditz cracked his knuckles, walking away towards the distant form of Pycon. Who knows? Maybe I'll even spar with the guy a bit. Don't! Trust me on this. Olibu laid a restraining hand on Raditz's shoulder. You are powerful, I grant you that. But no more than about twice Frieza's strength at most, judging by the way you beat me. And I can tell you weren't holding any power in reserve. Raditz grinned. No, I wasn't holding anything back. In this form, anyway. This form? See ya! Raditz waved a dismissive hand, heading for Pycon. He already thought I was something special, and I haven't even turned Super Saiyan yet. This Pycon had better be a bit more challenging. He approached the green-skinned warrior. Hey there! Pycon looked him up and down. And you are? Raditz, I'm new here. I was told you beat Frieza and his family? That is correct. What of it? Was it easy? Yes. Again, why do you ask? Pycon was beginning to get annoyed by the newcomer's constant questions. Awesome! Raditz grinned. Because that Olibu guy over there is helpful and all, but he's not much of a sparring partner. Then I heard you were pretty strong, and this is supposed to be a training ground. He grinned hopefully, but Pycon turned and walked away. He did beat Olibu, and that counts for something, but no. I'm getting tired of easy victories. I can already tell this one would be no challenge at all. Sorry, he said. I don't spar with weaklings, and especially not newcomers. Is that so? Raditz took a deep breath. Stay calm. Stay calm. Stay... Ah, hell with it. Hey, Pycon! What? Blitz Cannon!
Ladies and gentlemen, Goku tightened his belt. The fight you've all been waiting for! Hercule fluffed up his afro. Both declare themselves to be the strongest in the world! One claiming the existence of a supernatural ki force, the other denouncing it as a pack of lies! Now together in the ring for your entertainment! The fighters entered the ring, standing opposite each other, an intense stare passing between the two. Son Goku! Hercule Satan! Are you ready? They nodded simultaneously, and the announcer backed out of the ring, then said with a dramatic flourish, Then let the match begin! Instantly, Hercule leapt forwards, leading with a strong right jab that sailed straight at Goku's face. The Saiyan didn't move as the wrestler's fist approached. Ha! Hercule thought. He's way too slow! Hasn't even moved yet! At the last moment, Goku stepped aside, Hercule's fist hissing past his face. To the key-trained martial artist, the world champion might as well have been standing still. Nothing too fancy, Goku reminded himself. Nothing he can't claim as a trick. He took a step backwards, moving just out of range of Hercule's follow-up elbow jab and subsequent volley of kicks. Nice technique you've got there, he said. You're quite skilled, but you're way too slow to hit me. We'll see about that! Hercule tensed up and launched himself forwards, pushing himself off the ground with all his might. To the audience, Hercule appeared to vanish as he charged.
Goku smiled, impressed as he recognized the primitive version of the high-speed movement technique Ki-trained fighters use to instantly leap around the battlefield. In fact, he could even detect the tiniest flicker of ki from the mustachioed martial artist. A natural, but still impressive, result of training one's body to the peak of normal human fitness. To Goku's eyes, of course, Hercule still moved painfully slowly. The Saiyan swung one fist up, catching Hercule on the jaw and flooring him with ease, appearing to the audience to have punched his opponent out of thin air. Alright, that was good. Remember, don't tap him. Make it look like a punch. Not that I have to pretend to be weaker than I am or anything. I just have to make it look like I'm actually fighting. Hey, not bad, Goku grinned. You were moving pretty fast there, champ. Hercule climbed to his feet, rubbing his chin.
Nice shot, punk.
I try.
Ooh, and the first blow goes to Goku.
The commentator shouted into his microphone.
Hercule seemed to have the advantage, moving faster than the human eye could follow to strike. But it appears Goku's reflexes are even faster.
Sitting in the front row as the audience around them watched eagerly, Gohan nudged Videl. See? He isn't even trying. Oh, just wait, Videl retorted, folding her arms. My dad's just warming up.
Hercule nodded. Well, I guess you weren't lying. At least not entirely. Whatever that power you're always on about is. You're a fast one, huh?
You could say that, Goku replied with a nonchalant look. Oh, just get on with it already.
Well, fine. You're pretty quick, I'll give you that. But they don't call me the strongest man in the world for nothing, you know.
Oh?
That's right!
Hercule shifted into attack-ready stance.
I bet you one hit from my fists of steel, and you'll fold right up!
You bet, huh? Goku considered this. Alright then. Hit me.
What?
You heard me. I'll prove I've got strength as well as speed, if you like.
Why, you?
Hercule spluttered, gritting his teeth.
Thinks he can play with me like that? Well, fine. Alright, but remember you asked for it. Hi-ya!
He sprang at Goku again, planting his fist firmly in the alien warrior's chest. Goku stood unflinching, still smiling. Hercule hopped away, clutching his throbbing hand.
Ow! Ow! What are you made of? They checked us before the match. He isn't wearing body armor or anything. Could it be? He's telling the truth?
His eyes narrowed.
Nah, I'd have heard about something like this long before now. This fight isn't over, you hear?
I hear you, Goku said. This fight was over before it begun.
Now you pay attention, Goku, because I'm going to show you why one of us has thousands of adoring fans.
He lifted his arms into the air, extending 2 fingers on each hand in V victory signs.
Because I am the greatest!
Half the crowd cheered wildly. The rest sat silently in suspense, waiting for the final verdict. Come on, Dad, Videl said quietly. This is pointless, Gohan thought.
Now you!
Hercule rolled up his sleeve, swinging his arm around in a wide arc and finally tapping his leg. Looking up at Goku, he leapt to the attack again, leading with his foot.
Dynamic Rolling Thunder Dynamite Super Champion style, mess him up, kick off!
Goku held Hercule's foot, mid-kick, by the ankle, inches away from his face. Meanwhile, his own foot was buried in the champion's stomach. Hercule fell back as Goku released him, landing in an unconscious heap on the ground, for the second time in 3 days.
And the winner is Goku! Let's have a big hand for our champion!
Videl? Hey, Videl! Gohan ran left and right, dashing back and forth around the arena grounds as the press swamped the ring, finally finding Hercule's daughter standing on the same hill they'd met up behind earlier, staring up into the sky. You okay? No. Hey, look, it's not his fault. Those people weren't even aware Ki existed. We're just trying to get the truth out to people. He stood next to her. I bet your dad's the strongest non-Ki user on the planet, though. She shook her head. I'm going to learn it, you know? All your techniques and powers? I'm going to get stronger than any of you. Sorry, but I don't think you can. Gohan replied, sighing. It was a weird feeling. Normally he enjoyed his Saiyan heritage and the power it gave him. But now he just felt like he had an unfair advantage. Oh? And why's that? Her eyes narrowed. I can't say. Suddenly she sounded hesitant, pointing at a spot just to the left of his waist. Does it have anything to do with that? What? Gohan looked down, doing a double take as he realized his tail was swishing back and forth in the air behind him. Something that often happened when he felt tense or awkward. A nice costume, huh? Had you fooled? Her expression told him she wasn't fooled. Okay, how do I start? For some reason, I feel like telling the truth. Somehow I know she'll keep this a secret. Well, do you mind if I fly us somewhere a bit more remote? Gohan and Videl stood on the plains as night fell, amidst the ruins of Corn Tower, several miles from the media circus. Alright, he said. Sorry, but some of this isn't exactly stealthy. She sat down on a chunk of rubble. Go ahead, I'm listening. What's up with the tail? Well, I'm not exactly human. He scratched his head. Sorta. I mean, I'm half human. My dad's a Saiyan. They're a very powerful warrior race. And they all have tails like this. And there's one other thing. Some Saiyans can transform. Golden energy burst out of Gohan's body, lighting up the night. Now you can see why we needed to come out here. Yeah, that attracted attention. Videl agreed. I like the hair, but is there a point? Sure. This is called Super Saiyan, and in this form I get a lot more powerful. Maybe 10, 50 times, I don't know exactly. And here's something we discovered in the last few days. He powered up to the higher level he and Goku had used, watching as Videl marveled at the mingling blue sparks and golden aura. This is twice as strong as Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan 2, I guess. Videl nodded. Right, I guess that answers why a bunch of you were blonde in the news footage. That's pretty cool, but does that mean your dad only beat mine because he's an alien? The existence of aliens wasn't so much a shock. Earth had, in fact, been invaded by the Saiyans a few years back, and the destruction of a whole city was hard to ignore. Gohan relaxed, powering down. Sorry, no. Any key-trained human fighter could have beaten him, but my dad's the strongest out of us, and the one who beat Cell. So it seemed... right, I guess. Fitting, somehow. Videl blinked. You talk like someone much older than you know? Gohan laughed nervously, his tail curling behind its back. Yeah, I guess so. My mom's always making me study. Well, let's get back over there, the long-haired girl said with an awkward smile, and see if I can salvage some of my dad's dignity before he does something stupid. Gohan took her arm, preparing to take off. If I know him at all, it's going to be too late for that. And there we go. Things are moving. I haven't got much time to write this commentary, so Q&A next week will be combined for this and next chapter. But we're not doing that. No more Q&As. The next special, or bonus thing, will be the Dead Zone special, and I'll tack it on at the end of some future chapter. The next extra after that will be Break Through the Limit Kai Chapter 4. Most of the movies, though, will not be specials. They'll be incorporated into the main storyline, like Cooler, the Metacooler/Frieza plotline, Broly, and Bojack were. Just a heads up, I will not be doing Break Through the Limit Kai anymore. It doesn't get much views, and it's dumb. You can read it on your own time if you want. But anyways, that is it for Chapter 41. That'll be it for this video. Stay tuned next time for Chapters 42, 43. I might do Chapter 44 as well. It all depends on the time limits. Anyways, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the show. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Ginger Power signing off.